he's calling for the firing of the Securities and Exchange Commission. Well, I think that's all fine and good, but here's what I say. In the next 47 days, you can fire the whole trickle down on your own, look the other way crowd in Washington who has led us down this disastrous path. Don't just get rid of one guy, get rid of this administration, get rid of this philosophy, get rid of the do-nothing approach to our economic problems, and put somebody in there who's going to fight for you.
Obama! 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 Obama!
Now let's be clear. Let's be clear. What we have seen in the last few days is nothing less than the final verdict on an economic philosophy that has completely failed. It is George Bush's philosophy. It is John McCain's philosophy. And I am running for President of the United States because the dreams of the American people can't be endangered anymore. It's time to put an end to a broken system and a failed philosophy that's breaking the American economy. It's time for change that makes a real difference in your lives.
Yeah!
By the way, you notice that John McCain also has been stealing my lines. Have you noticed that?
Yes!
I've been talking about change for 2 years now. Talked about change when we were up, talked about change when we were down. John McCain, I thought he was running on experience. Right? You remember all that?
Yeah.
Suddenly he's got, on his hands, he's got the change we need.
Yep.
He's starting to talk about turn the page. I guess imitation is the best form of flattery, but you know what? I don't want him stealing my lines. I want him to steal some of my ideas. Change isn't just a slogan. Change is actually having some ideas to move the country forward. You know, it was 2 years ago that I introduced legislation to stop mortgage transactions that promoted fraud, risk, or abuse. It was 1 year ago that I called on the Treasury Secretary and our Fed Chairman to bring every stakeholder together and find a solution to the subprime mortgage meltdown before it got worse. It was in March, when John McCain was saying, "I'm always for less regulation," that I called for a new 21st century regulatory framework to restore accountability and transparency and trust in our financial markets. You know, the events of the past few days have made clear that we need to do more. We don't have time for commissions. We can't afford to lurch back and forth between positions, depending on the latest news of the day when dealing with an economic crisis, the way John McCain has. We can't be lurching around. We need some clear and steady leadership. And that's why I was ahead of the curve in calling for regulation, and that's why I'm calling on the Treasury and the Federal Reserve to use their emergency authorities to maintain the flow of credit, to support the availability of mortgages, and to ensure that our financial system is well capitalized. Tomorrow I'll be convening a meeting with my top economic advisors, former secretaries of the Treasury, former heads of the Federal Reserve Bank, to discuss a plan based on the ideas I've been talking about with former Fed Chairman Paul Volcker and other advisors of mine. And then I'll call for the passage of a Homeowner and Financial Support Act that would establish a more stable and permanent solution than the daily improvisations that have characterized policymaking over the last year. Now, specifically, here's what we need to do. 3 primary goals we need to accomplish. First, we will provide capital to the financial system. Second, we will provide liquidity to enable our financial markets to function. And third, we will do what I've been calling for since I supported legislation on it early last spring, which is to get serious about helping struggling families to restructure their mortgages on affordable terms so they can stay in their homes. We've made a good start, but we need to do much, much more. We cannot forget that there are many homeowners who are in crisis through no fault of their own. And a solution that does not have them at its core is no solution at all. Now, that's just in terms of dealing with the immediate financial crisis, but we've had a longer running crisis for a very long time before this latest problem on Wall Street. You know it in your own lives. Your wages and your incomes haven't gone up. Jobs have been shipped overseas. Millions of people across the country don't have health care. Young people can't afford to go to college. So we need to strengthen our economy overall from the bottom up, to jumpstart this process, to get job creation going. I've proposed a $50 billion emergency economic plan that would save 1 million jobs by rebuilding our infrastructure, repairing our schools, helping our states, helping our local communities avoid damage and budget cuts. To help people stay in their homes, I'll change our bankruptcy laws. Because you know what, right now, if you have one house that you own and you get into financial trouble, a judge cannot modify your mortgage in bankruptcy. But get this, if you have 7 homes, then the judge can modify your 2nd home, your 3rd home, your 4th, your 5th, your 6th, and your 7th. Why is it that folks with 7 homes get more of a break than folks with 1? That doesn't make any sense, and we're going to change that when I get to Washington as President of the United States.